Today, April 17th voting meeting. Let's do roll call to start with.
Councilmember Shimolowski.
Present.
Councilmember Serna.
Here.
Councilmember Barton.
Here.
Councilmember Elam is absent. Councilmember Fry.
Here.
Vice President Kingsley.
Here.
President Sokolowski.
Here.
Mayor Aronson.
Here.
Thank you.
Great, thank you very much, Stephanie. Let's all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, and just as an announcement, as I said, this is the voting meeting. The items being presented in front of us today for a vote have been on prior work session meetings and council has had time to fully vet the information. With that being said, do we have any public comment on the agenda items for this evening? Hearing no public comment, we will move directly on to the next item on the agenda. We have no presentations this evening, Stephanie? No. Okay. No land use or public hearings this evening, so we'll move right into the consent agenda. So this evening, I would need a motion to approve and adopt the March 6th and March 20th regular meeting minutes.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Second item would be to approve the March ending treasurer's report and the accounts payable in the amount of $913,103.34.
I'll make that motion.
Second. I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is some unfinished business, and we will be considering approving a special events request for the Beats for Bella and Heartworks that was presented to us at the last council meeting. Does anyone have any questions related to what was presented? Okay. Hearing no questions, do I have a motion to approve a special event request for the Beats for Bella and Heartworks on October 5th, 2024, with waiving all costs associated with hosting the event at the Borough facilities, subject to the final review and approval of the event by Borough administration?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Next item is to consider approving a resolution 2024-06. This would authorize the submission of the COVID Multipurpose Community Facilities Grant application. Any questions on that grant application? Hearing no questions, could I have a motion to approve Resolution 2024-06 that would authorize the submission of the COVID Multipurpose Community Facilities Grant for the gymnasium HVAC system at the community center?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is to consider approving the third addendum to the solid waste disposal agreement with Covanta. Covanta was here several weeks ago, going over, answering any of our questions. Do we have any additional questions or concerns related to that document?
No.
Okay. Hearing no questions or concerns, could I have a motion to approve the third addendum to the solid waste disposal agreement with Covanta, which will give us an additional 5-year period from 2025 through 2029?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is under new business. First item would be consider authorizing the issuance of a notice of intent to award a contract for the 2024 liquid fuels road program. At this point, I think I would like Tyler Williams, our engineer from RVE, to come on up to the podium. please explain the project to us, the bid tabulation results, and then our next steps in the process.
Sure. So the project is Hallowell Street from 4th Avenue to 8th Avenue. It includes the total reconstruction of all 4 intersections along that stretch. And the bid pricing came in about what we had expected. If you do the math on last year, we did 2.5 total reconstructed intersections. That was 1/2 of 5th, 1/2 of 7th, 1/2 of 8th, and all of 6th intersection. If you do the math on the construction costs plus the engineering costs, it roughly comes out to about $240,000 per intersection. If you do the math on this year's bid pricing plus the engineering, it comes out to roughly $250,000 per intersection, which is a 5% increase from last year, which is roughly on par with inflation for any other goods and services across the board. And the reason that we have to completely reconstruct the intersections is the current state of them with the unsafe drainage conditions, where you have the open-ended drainage pipes that kind of go through the intersection to convey water from one side to the other. Those need to be removed so that we can either have surface runoff or put it into an underground collection system. So in order to do that, you have to excavate the entire intersection down to about 12 inches, replace all of the stone base, replace the asphalt base course, and the asphalt wearing course. A couple of the differences between this year and last year. Last year, we did not do a complete mill and overlay in between intersections. We did partial mill and overlay because certain sections had been done from prior utility work. This year, we're repaving the entire street in between intersections, curb to curb mill and overlay. We also have some drainage work going in at 6th Avenue that there is actually underground collection that heads down 6th Avenue. So we're able to install some catch basins and tie into that to send it down the hill. So if you have any specific questions, I
Questions
can
for
help.
Tyler
Yeah.
related to the project?
How far down did you say you had to go?
What was that?
How far down did you say you had to go?
Generally, it's estimated that we excavate down about 12 inches.
Okay.
And we're getting rid of all the unsuitable base material. We're finding bricks from the 1900s and God knows what else we'll find down there.
Okay. Thank you.
Tyler, why are we doing Hollowell 4th to 8th?
That was selected in part with the administration, and I guess the main reason is because of those drainage pipes that are open-ended on both sides. They're a hazard for tripping. They're a hazard for vehicles that can potentially drive over them. If a ball goes in there, God forbid, a kid would go try and climb in there and get it out. So it's an unsafe condition that you really don't see anywhere. So it's something that needs to be corrected.
So that doesn't apply to 9th to 12th up above? They're somehow different than 4th to 8th on Hollowell? Is that what
Oh, I'm sure you have that condition many places in the borough. That we can only do a certain amount at a
Gotcha.
time due to budget concerns.
So Stephanie, Tyler mentioned that in coordination with administration, can you tell me how you and your team evaluate what would be kind of in the works each year for the road program?
So we have a full-scale borough-wide road program that was developed back in 2018. That equated to roughly a $30 million estimated road program to fix all of the roads in Conshohocken. That road program also, more importantly, broke down specific areas of the borough in terms of roads, intersections. They did core sampling where the major problems exist. So annually, we get roughly $215,000 in liquid fuels grant dollars. As you can see, that doesn't even cover the restoration of one intersection. So we've had to make some decisions in terms of delaying some road programs. And I think that when you're talking about road program, and I think this is where we have to start changing the narrative slightly, is that a road program does not mean milling and overlaying a road. That's simply putting a Band-Aid on an issue. And I think that where we are today is a clear inadequate management of certain portions of the borough in terms of infrastructure, and now we're trying to rectify that. So we are having to tackle specific areas that are the most problematic areas that either have large volumes of participants or traffic, et cetera, foot traffic, as well as vehicular traffic. Stormwater is a major issue. So that's how we're picking and choosing areas to rectify on an annual basis. But the financing is also a major portion of those decisions. So if you're talking about really 4 intersections, because there'll be some extension past 7th, but it's really 4th through to 7th for this project.
I got my limits wrong there.
In terms of the intersections, you're talking about 4 intersections, you're talking about $1 million. And if you're only getting $215,000 of that in grant dollars on an annual basis, then the rest of that has to come from somewhere. We are in a position now, because we have saved up those grant dollars to be able to do a project of this scope in one shot, but moving forward, that's a conversation that we collectively as a borough are going to have in terms of whether or not you're going to want a dedicated funding source for infrastructure and roads, because as Tyler is illustrating to you, we're talking about 4 intersections. As Councilmember Fry just indicated, go up 3 blocks and the same issues exist. And so therefore, there's going to have to be some strategic conversations that come, because in order to do this project, as I have indicated in your meeting materials, you're going to have to tap into your reserves. There was only so much that was budgeted for in the 2024 budget. Those bids came in over budget. You have the money to complete the project. We are recommending that you move forward and complete the project because the area is of concern, as Tyler indicated. But then you're depleting those reserve funds, so that funding conversation is going to be part of your budget discussion moving into 2025.
So what is the balance of the reserves once we take the additional 128K?
Yeah, you need about 128,000 to close the gap between what the bid prices came in and what we budgeted for. And Tyler sends proposed budget numbers in during our budget cycle, but we do allocate for some contingencies within those dollars, which is why the project itself is higher than, the difference between what was proposed and what the bid was is higher than what you need to do in terms of your budget, because we did budget for some reserves and contingencies. But at the end of the day, if you tap into that 128,000, your total remaining fund balance at the end of 2024 would be $236,000.
And that's in the liquid fuels.
That is correct. That is not part of borough tax revenue. That is liquid fuels grant dollars that can only be utilized for certain things. And PennDOT's very stringent, and Tyler gets to work with them on a regular basis.
So
Very lucky.
236 left.
Yep,
We get about 215
15.
a year, so that's really only taking us up to about a 400K.
That is correct.
So why wouldn't we limit the size and scope of what we're doing this year so we don't have, because if we're thinking we want to do roads every year, I mean, at this rate, we're going to be doing roads for 30 years and then starting all over again. So why wouldn't we limit the scope of what this project is and not dip into reserves?
I think that your reserves are there to satisfy liquid fuels projects, and therefore they can either sit and not be used, or they can be utilized to satisfy a problematic area in the borough. You're also looking at economy of scale when you're doing a full project. So if you're talking about 4 intersections and an alternate bid, which does tackle another problem area in the borough, you're not gonna get those same prices in order to do all 4 intersections at this price. It's going to be much more expensive because you're going to be doing a smaller project, which is going to require additional mobilization and economy of scales from the contractor. I think that's answering your question.
In addition, I'll say that it's surprising that it's only 5%, considering the construction costs and that have gone on within the contracting and construction industry. 5% is surprising, I would say.
Stephanie, the grants don't have a time limit?
They do not have a time limit.
That helps.
They do have to be utilized for a very specific list of items.
Okay.
And everything, this whole project needs to then, if it's approved, we have to go through the whole responsible contractor ordinance regulations, but then it has to also go to PennDOT for approval. So this is kind of the first step, now that the bidding has closed.
Anyone have any other questions about this project specifically?
So when would you, let's say we do approve it and you move forward and PennDOT approves it, when do you think the work would start? What's the,
I put together a timeline. I didn't bring it with me. The RCO process has several, like waiting periods where we have to publish, the responsible contractor, checklists on the borough website for public review for 10 days. And then we request that they submit their subcontractor documentation to us for review. Then that gets published for a certain period.
I'm going to help you out, because I have the schedule that you sent me.
we'll just mark you down unprepared for.
No. Basically, once Tyler goes through, if it's approved this evening to do the notice of intent, then Tyler will go through the whole responsible contractor ordinance requirements. That takes you out to the item being back on your agenda roughly around May 1st.
Yeah.
Where you would potentially then award the project to the contractor. That you then need to allow the contractor mobilization and lead time. So, I don't know, early summer.
Yeah, once the project's awarded, we have to do contract preparation and pre-construction meeting before they can get started. Then we also have to submit to PennDOT, and they'll review all the bid documents and the line items. We also have to get submittals from the contractor. They have to approve all the materials before we start the construction. So after that whole process is done, roughly a little bit less than a month, then we can get started in physical construction.
How long do you think this project will take once they start digging?
The contract duration is 90 days in the contract.
Okay.
I would assume they could finish before then, but that's all weather dependent.
Okay, thank you.
Just curious, you said did you say they're paving the entire street from intersection
Yes.
to intersection, is that correct?
Yep.
And they didn't do that with the other one? With the prior projects? Is that right?
Last year, 2023, the stretch that we did, part of the road had been resurfaced by a prior utility company. I think it was Aqua.
Okay.
So we didn't see the need to take out paving that was put in the summer before, just to, put down new material.
That answers the
So
question.
it's
Thank
a
you.
little bit of cost savings.
Yep.
So from a safety and engineering perspective, you can put two different projects together and it's not a fracture of the road, it just looks two different colors? Is that the,
Well, yeah, I mean, have you driven down Harry Street from 8th to 4th? You can tell which areas, were placed, the year prior versus the material that was placed, last year. But over time, it'll all look the same. And there weren't any defects in the product that was there, so, that we didn't see any need to spend extra dollars to, tear it out and redo it.
We are always looking to fiscally and responsibly manage tax dollars. So, and grant money, because then that affects tax dollars. So the concept that a road program is successful just because it looks nice is not the definition of a successful road program for us. It's really the engineering and providing an adequately completed engineered product at the end of the day. Makes sense.
All right, can I just ask a clarifying question on the numbers?
Sure.
So we approve the supplemental appropriation out of the liquid fuels dollars.
Mhm.
We get into next year, we get our additional liquid fuels dollars. We only have 480K-ish. That's not going to do this level of program next year. Where do we potentially get funding? Is that when we go into different reserves? What would you say would be the next steps? I know you talked a little bit about the budget process. Tell me a little bit more about that, just so I can fully understand.
Well, that's going to have to be a conversation for the borough. And when I say the borough, I mean administration providing the different options that exist, whether that is reserve funds, but those reserve funds can only be earmarked for so many things, and there are so many initiatives and so many objectives that Borough Council and the borough, in terms of the residents and the businesses, want to accomplish. So then the next option is going to be taxes. Are you reallocating millage based off of what you need for your different funds and making a infrastructure fund? That's an option. Are you looking at increased millage for this specific need that's going to be needed for a long-term strategic plan? Those are kind of some hard conversations we're going to have because you are never going to have the reserves in liquid fuels dollars that you have currently, and mostly of that is due to the fact that we couldn't do liquid fuels projects during COVID. So you have a surplus that has been built up over a number of years.
Just looking forward, do we know approximately how many of these intersections exist throughout the borough?
We do. I don't know the exact number, but the road program that was developed by your engineer back in 2018 did a full assessment.
Okay.
And so we have that document on file, and we just have kind of been rectifying the problem areas. There were different scenarios that were presented in terms of how to tackle a full-scale road program. And I think that we have all, especially with everything that we have dealt with over the past 6 years, doing a road program of that scope is not really feasible. It's going to have to be done this way, deliberately, strategically, certain section of the borough at certain times, unless some windfall of grant dollars lands in our lap and there's a bigger opportunity that comes our way. But just like you do with everything else in terms of what's an initiative, like there's the borough residents said an initiative 10 years ago was parks, playgrounds, recreation. We still have that request on a regular basis, and so that's still a priority. But if the residents are then saying that, their next initiative is infrastructure and road program, then we, as your administration, have to kind of build that into what options exist for you from a budgetary perspective. And that may mean getting creative with millage and how it's currently allocated. It may mean presenting an increase in millage if that's the direction we need to go in order to have a dedicated funding source on an annual basis. It may mean that you are solely doing a road program if you get grant dollars, but that then extends it greatly because your grants are always a year behind. You're applying for a grant, getting the grant, and then budgeting for the grant, finding matching dollars for the grant. So that's not always the best solution when it comes to trying to tackle the entirety of the borough.
Any other questions? I think, Steph, that we need to really ask you to put together those various options and build that into our future discussions, because that's part of the strategic planning that we'll need to start thinking about.
Okay.
We need to kind of listen to what the residents are asking for and requesting. One of the things I consistently hear about are the roads.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that really studying it and figuring out and doing it very tactfully and having these discussions out in the open,
Yep.
inviting the residents in to have some conversations about it, I think is the way to go. What is everyone thinking as far as direction for administration?
Okay, well, I have no problem doing that. We'll put together, we'll pull on the resources that have already been created for the borough. We'll utilize kind of Tyler's expertise to kind of forecast that moving into the future. A lot of the conversation is going to be based around this concept, though, that a lot of the road programs that were done in the past were done kind of with an inadequate intent, where it didn't really serve to rectify the issues underneath the road itself, which then the integrity of the surface layer, I'm not an engineer, but if you don't fix what's underneath, the pretty layer on top is not going to last very long. And so you are going to be put in a position where you have to decide what's in the best interest of the borough to fix the inadequacies in the past.
Okay. I think you have some direction.
I think I have some homework.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
All right.
All right, so let's get back to our motion. So I'm looking for a motion to authorize the use of the additional liquid fuels reserve funds in Fund Number 35 for the amount of $127,898, and that will satisfy the low bid project bid pricing submitted by Scott Building Corporation.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, motion carries. As a second item in this same topic, I will also need a motion to approve issuance of a notice of intent to award Scott Building Corporation for the 2024 Liquid Fuels Road Program project.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second in stereo. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, motion carries. Next item on the agenda is to consider approving a memorandum of understanding to the Public Services AFSCME agreement. Any questions on the AFSCME agreement? Okay, hearing no questions, could I have a motion to authorize an execution of a memorandum of understanding amending the Borough of Conshohocken Conshohocken's collective bargaining agreement with the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees Union.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is to consider approving the Conshohocken Electric Force Special Event application for the Juneteenth celebration event. Any questions on the item? Okay. With that, could I have a motion to approve the Conshohocken Electric Force Special Event application for Juneteenth celebration on June 19th, 2024 at Aubrey Collins Park?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Just to call out, that motion also included the road closure of East Elm Street, subject to the final approval by administration. Next item on the agenda is to consider approving Country Corner Tavern special event application for a fundraiser block party. Any questions on the block party?
I do have some questions, actually, on this one. Is there anyone, Stephanie, is anyone here from,
No, Mr. Keller is not here, as this is a recurring special event. So if the first time they request to come in for a special event, they do have to appear in front of Borough Council. But if it is a recurring event, and it's been previously approved, we don't make them come back in.
okay. How long has this event been going on?
I don't know the exact date, but I can tell you that it's at least been 3 years.
Okay.
It's four.
It might be four.
It's four.
I just want to vet out a little bit the sale of alcohol at a block party and just talk about security. Maybe people have been there, or maybe you can answer for me. I'm just concerned about security in an area where alcohol is being sold abnormally, I'm going to call it, right? It's not their typical way of typical business practice.
I don't ever remember seeing problems there. I've been to a couple of them.
Yeah, I've been there the past 2 years now, and it's a lot of fun.
Okay,
And there's not
decent.
any problems. The Corner Tavern, I mean, they're right there actually on the corner, and they have it pretty well policed themselves.
is alcohol consumption up and down the street, or do they have
It's just
a-
that block between
little block.
Spring Mill and Hector, it's just the one block, and the only other business there is the bakery, and they're very happy to participate. And you get some free food too, but so,
They have tables out,
yeah.
the high tops, they have them out.
Are
And it's-
we,
Very much a family thing. I mean, you'll see parents and kids. You don't really see like drunks and like older teenagers by themselves. It's mostly young adults and kids and a few old ladies walking around.
okay. Yeah, I just want to put on the record, I have,
Yeah, I understand.
Concerns.
Yeah,
and I'd hate to be, we say, oh, it's a family event, and it's not that many, all of a sudden, then one year, it's a lot of people, and we have an issue, and we're not prepared for it.
Chief, have you seen any problems down there?
We have not had any issues related to the event in the entire time that it has taken place. The only issue that I've ever noted is some leftover trash on the street the next day, which they took care of.
Thank you.
Do you do anything with patrols? I know that there's nothing set up where they're paying for police presence, but do you run patrols by that area during, or do you think you would?
We have 4 officers on that day. The duty sergeant knows that it's happening. They know that they need to make an appearance there. We don't have an officer strictly for that event.
Right, okay. Okay,
And the crowds are generally on the side street, they're not out in Elm Street, correct?
no, they're generally right there, and there's a parking lot that's fenced off, but that's opened up, and that's where they put the barbecue, and so it's pretty contained right in that one area there.
okay.
Any other questions?
No.
Okay. Hearing no other questions, do I have a motion to approve the Country Corner Tavern special event application for a fundraiser block party on June 2nd, 2024, that will include the road closure on Jones Street, subject to a final review and approval by Borough Administration?
I'll make that motion.
And I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Nay, or,
Ayes have it. For the record, we have 1 nay. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is to consider approving zoning escrow release for 110 Washington Street, 113 West 2nd Avenue, 241 West 6th Avenue, and 400 East 10th Avenue. I'll do each motion separately so I can call out the dollars. So the first motion is to approve 241 West 6th Avenue escrow release in the amount of $137.25 plus interest.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Next motion would be to approve 113 West 2nd Avenue zoning escrow release in the amount of $116.47 plus interest.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Next motion is to approve 400 East 10th Avenue zoning escrow release in the amount of $396.08 plus interest.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Last motion would be to approve 110 Washington Street zoning escrow release in the amount of $830.21 plus interest.
I'll make
that motion.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Our next item on the agenda is a public comment section. Is there anyone in the public that would like to make any comments? Hearing no comments, we will move on to mayor and council business. Mr. Mayor, what you got for us tonight?
Thank you, President Sokolowski. I just want to give a shout out to the board of the Conshohocken Little League and really this new class of parents who really became energized this past year and injected a lot of new initiatives and fun. Like it was just like a much bigger event. With some endpoints like a batting cage that they're trying to raise money for. So it was a really wonderful opening day, and I know the future of the league is really bright. And it was great to see council there, and Thomas got to see where hopefully he'll be fielding some balls in not too distant future. We also are in the last month of a Beats for Bella initiative. Where anyone participating had to shave their beard and then regrow it to raise money for Beats for Bella, which we just approved an event for the fall. And all their funds go to supporting families that went through what Sarah and I went through, help them through the surgery and children's hospital process, and then also continued to fund research to find a cure for congenital heart defects. So we're in the final month, and then I can decide what I'm doing. But it's been a lot of fun, and thank you to them for putting on that fundraiser. We also have the 10-year anniversary of Yoga Home. So Thomas celebrated by practicing his down dog. They're having a children's and community yoga class at the Methodist Church on Friday. It was actually one of Sarah and I's first dates was to Yoga Home. So it's great that they've been with us in our community for a decade now. Really great. And then finally, we released our list of local bands for the Arts Festival and Car Show. So we're really excited. We're going to have the louder, more electric kind of music at the Masonic Lodge on 8th and Fayette. And then the acoustic acts will go on at the Conshohocken Library. And they'll be playing all day from 11 to about 3 o'clock when we start to do the Car Show Awards. So we're looking forward to that. That is June 1st, and the rain date is June 8th. And that's it for me.
I actually ran over to opening day. I missed the
Yeah.
parade. But the faces, so they had a
Yes.
fundraiser for the kids,
Yes.
and they had their faces. That was absolutely adorable.
It really, it's this new group of parents that just wanted to inject some new life and energy into the Little League, and they're doing a wonderful job.
It's great.
Yeah, I'll just second that. They knocked it out of the park, figuratively. Yeah, see what I did there. But, yeah, no, they did a really good job, and I think they're going to have some extremely exciting news about the batting cage coming up here. And I don't know if anybody's had a chance to see the rendering, but it's very impressive. And I think that looks like a very, very good development. So, yeah, really good job for them.
Wonderful.
Nothing, thank you.
Nothing tonight?
Nothing.
All right. Anita?
Nothing.
The EAC is having their Green Fest at Marywood Park on Saturday, April 27th from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. It'll be family friendly and educational about the environment. So please come out and enjoy it.
Will Sprout be there?
Yes, and so Sprout also attended the parade and got people amped up about it. It's actually a newly renovated Sprout because the older Sprout was hurting Sprout.
Okay.
So we're very excited to have Sprout out there.
Wonderful. Alan?
Nothing for me, thank you.
All right. I'll just remind everybody that next Tuesday, April 23rd, is primary election. Get out and vote. With that, I will call meeting adjourned.